So you want to buy a house, but you haven't done it before and you don't quite know where to start, or you're just looking for some great tips and tricks along the way? Well, you're in luck. Welcome to a very special real estate seminar put on by the Getty Team and Kyle Spitzer, lender extraordinaire. We are going to go ahead and walk through the 5 steps to buying a house, as well as some of our favorite tips and extra tidbits for you along the way. Now, without further ado, you know what time it is. Roll that intro. That intro doesn't get you jacked up to learn about buying houses, I don't know what will. I'm Michael Getty of the Getty Team, and thanks for watching this. That intro took too many takes for me to discuss to finally put together, but we made it through it, and now we are to the meat and potatoes section of the presentation. Speaking of meat and potatoes, let's go ahead and add our extra guests today. We have my brother and real estate partner in crime, David Getty. And then we have the best lender in all of town, Kyle Spitzer, as well, joining us. We're just going to go around and just do a little quick tidbit about who we are. So me, myself, Michael Getty, lead agent and sales manager over at Mauzy Properties. Been an agent for over 10 years, helped with thousands of rental transactions and over hundreds of the buy-sell. So I have a lot of experience about buying houses and just kind of wanted to put this together because I work with a lot of tenants who are looking to make the transition from renting to buying and haven't done it before, and just kind of putting this together as information to, go through the process. What are important things to do, different milestones. I thought would be really nice for a lot of the people I work with to kind of get a broad overview of everything. Dave, tell them about yourself. Who are you?
David Getty. Been in the real estate game for a little over 6 years. Probably been involved in several thousand transactions. The better looking half of the Getty duo. And excited to be here with Michael and Kyle to talk about real estate. Kyle, take it away.
Awesome. My name is Kyle Spitzer. I got that great introduction, which I'm very excited about. I've been doing mortgage loan originations for about 13 years, and that's just a very complicated way of saying that I help people with mortgages and walk them through the process. But I love helping first-time home buyers and just getting them to the end goal, where I know it can be a little bit nerve-wracking, but that's what we are all here to help them with.
All right, well, there's plenty of stuff to get through, so let's just hit it right away with step 1.
Hey, Michael here, and this week I'm going to be putting together the 5 steps to buying a house. Step 1, assembling your team. And while there's actually many people that can help you through the process, probably the 2 main people that you want to acquire and have on your team would be a good agent and a good lender. Finding an agent, what's really important is having someone who you feel you can communicate with, who has your best interests at heart, who knows their stuff and has experience and can kind of advocate on your behalf. Having a great lender is also a really important part of the process. You want someone that, of course, knows the ins and out of loans and pre-approvals, but you also want someone who can communicate and get back to you in a timely fashion, that knows their stuff, that's accessible and accountable. Those are really important things too. So step 1 is going to be getting your team together. Yes, there's stuff like home inspectors, title companies, and others as well that are an important role, but getting a good lender and a good agent is a great first step. Check back tomorrow for step 2.
Okay, so needless to say, you don't have to check back tomorrow. You're going to see those at the end of these clips. I didn't want to cut them up. I thought we'd just run the raw original content there. Step 1, build the team, get your power team together, build the dream team. This one's pretty easy because it's right in front of you. You've already got it here, so we can just move to step 2. No, but seriously, having people, like having a good team of people that you enjoy working with will make the process much more enjoyable and rewarding. Buying a house has its moments of fun and glee and joy, and can have its moments of, difficulty, challenges. It's not always easy. A lot of times the people we work with are very happy with the process and everything, but you can run into obstacles. So having people that have your back and that you can communicate with and know what they're doing helps to make the process way better.
Yeah, as Michael was saying, communication is pretty key when you're looking to purchase a house. So the main thing that you want to know and have at your disposal is good communication with your realtor and with your lender. And it's pretty important that they communicate with each other too. There are a lot of things that go on when you're purchasing, and there are a lot of things that you need to be aware of, and you need to get set. You need to get your homeowner's insurance set. A lot of times you need to coordinate movers and all that sort of stuff. It's pretty important that you don't have to be the middleman between your lender and your realtor if you don't want to be. If you don't want to be that involved, or if there's a lot of stuff going on, they need to be able to communicate back and forth. And I know that's something that's pretty easy for us to do with the 3 people that are on the screen. But if we're not lucky enough to all help you, just make sure that if you have a different lender, that they are willing to communicate with these 2 guys, so you don't have to be in the middle of everything, because things can be lost in translation when you're trying to be the middle person. You potentially never have done this before, and you don't know like the real estate lingo, and things can just kind of be lost. So for them to be able to communicate back and forth is pretty important to take the stress off of your plate.
Yeah, the Sesame Street word of the day, I don't know if they do words of the days or just letters or colors or whatever, but is synergy. And, Kyle brings up a really good point that when I think of building a team, I think of it being focused around the buyer and making sure that they get along with all the people on their team. But it's true that if your teammates all get along too, it does help a lot. I'll work with buyers who have their own lenders or banks or credit unions that they want to work with. That's totally fine too. But if their other pieces don't communicate that well, it can make the process more challenging, can also lead to confusion and things getting missed. So having a unified front that all works well together is a really good back end step to make sure things go smooth.
Yeah, I think to add to that as well, I think it's not just the upfront team, your realtor and your lender. Those are obviously going to be the 2 people that you're probably engaging the most with as a buyer involved in the process. But there's also those kind of miscellaneous parts of the team as well. So your inspectors, like you mentioned in the video, as well as a title company that you're working with. And when you're working with a realtor that has been doing it for as long as we have, they're going to come with highly recommended players for those roles to fill in. So having those inspectors that you've worked with for 10 plus years, or having that title company that you've worked with for just as long is a nice addition to working with a quality realtor.
Yep. All right. So now that you got the team together, we'll go into step 2, which this is Kyle's baby. So here we go.
Now that you've assembled your real estate dream team, what's the next step in the home buying journey? It's the pre-approval process. What is the pre-approval process? That's when you meet with your mortgage lender, bank, or credit union and figure out the financing for purchasing a house. They're going to look at certain metrics like your debt to income ratio, your credit score, and other things to determine what you're financially qualified for. Pro tip, don't be discouraged about meeting with a lender to figure out these options sooner on. Even if there's things that you think might hold you back, they can help identify what things on your credit or what other items you can do to speed up this process and get yourself ready to purchase a house. Once you've got the pre-approval process down, you are ready to move on to step number 3. What is that? Well, check back tomorrow and we will find out. Bye.
All right. So step 2, pre-approval process. This one is essentially, Kyle Spitzer is the granddaddy of this one. So for those, just if you've never heard pre-approval before, essentially what it is you meet with a lender, a bank, they review your financial situations, your income, your debts, that kind of stuff, to see what you're eligible for to purchase, what loan amount you can get to go out and buy that house. So I'm going to throw it on to Kyle, and he's going to kind of explain what it looks like to actually get that process going.
All right. Thank you, Michael. So yeah, starting the pre-approval process. To start the pre-approval process, what we're going to want to do is first do an application. The application can be done through a phone call with me, takes about 20 minutes, or you can go on to homeloanswithkyle.com and fill out everything there on your own time. And with that, that's kind of the starting point. And after that, I'll need some documents from you. And if you're a W-2 employee, it kind of consists of the last 2 years of your W-2s, your most recent 30 days pay stubs, most recent 2 months bank statements. And if you're a self-employed borrower, you can take out the W-2, the pay stubs, and we just need the most recent 2 years of your tax returns. And then with that, you give me a couple days typically, and then I'm going to be able to see exactly what program you're pre-approved for, how much you're pre-approved for, and then we can kind of get into what you're comfortable with. And that's probably the most important number. So Once we take a look at everything, we'll kind of break everything down with your costs, your mortgage payment, and then we'll go over to see what you need to bring and what you are going to be looking at as far as a house is concerned, townhouse, condo, whatever the case may be. And then we can come up with what your payments are. And with that, then you're kind of better prepared to go out and search for houses, because you don't want to start at a 400K level and then you realize, hey, that payment is a little bit too high. I need to bring it back to 350. So that makes it a little bit tougher to see houses that are a little bit on a higher level, and then they go down to a little bit lower, and then you kind of have to readjust everything.
Kyle, what would you say to people who say, how soon is too soon to start this pre-approval process?
That's a really good question, Mike. I would say it's never really too early. You could start a couple years. That's really well in advance. But if you start a year in advance and give me a call just because you're not sure of everything, or you just want to get out in front of it, that's great. I help people plenty of times that they're not looking to buy a house for a year, and they might have some sort of issues, or they're not sure if they have issues or not. So when you give me a call and you call me that well in advance, at least if there are issues, we can get out in front of it. Or if you're thinking, hey, I might be changing jobs for whatever reason, I can let you know how that might impact you. So just to have a conversation or to do an application plenty in advance, that's perfect. And we don't even need to do the whole application if you don't want to. If you just want to have a quick conversation just to see what I think things might look like, that's great too. So the answer to that is I don't think it's ever too early to reach out to me.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to pat the back of Kyle here about is a lot of lenders are just looking for the quick, easy deal, and they don't really want to do a lot of legwork or groundwork. They just want to get a perfect buyer, get them the pre-approval, get them the house, right? Make their check. But one thing that Kyle's really good with is working with people and helping them to establish a plan, a roadmap for the future. That kind of goes back to the idea of reaching out in advance. So let's say, you can get pre-approved for 350, but you're hoping to get 450. Well, he might be able to identify a couple of trade lines that you have, maybe a credit card or something that you just need to pay down, or maybe it's a matter of just getting a different job that pays more. Like, he can look at these things, identify it, and get a plan in place for you. Well, he's not a credit repair specialist. You got to pay money for those people too. Kyle, you can just take advantage of his kindness here, and he will help you to get a plan in place to get where you want to get so that you can buy the house that you're hoping to get. Dave, you've been pretty quiet on the pre-approval process. What do you have to say about this?
I do think one other thing to kind of keep in mind during this entire time is what type of loan you're actually getting approved for. So whether it be your conventional, FHA, VA, all of these types of loans are going to have downstream effects in when it comes to the actual search buying process. So, if you're going the FHA or VA loan type, that's going to indicate the type of properties that we can kind of look at, just because some HOAs might have stipulations on the approvals that you can actually purchase with. If you're buying an older home, they have to go through specific inspections, to take a look at, chipping paint or loose handrails, whatever that may be. And that might have some things that it's good to be aware of when we actually get to that point in time.
Yeah, we'll do a video later going through all the different types of loans and pros and cons with that, but it is important to know not only how much you're pre-approved for, but also what kind of financing you'd be using. Mm-hmm. Kyle, anything else before we jump to really cool step 3?
No, that's really good points. As Dave was saying, with condos, townhouses, that sort of stuff, not all the time will your FHA or VA be approved. So it's very important to kind of get out in front of that and allow me to kind of set proper expectations for you, just so you know that, hey, this may not, work for every single, house that you're looking at, but we can see what we can do to potentially get you to a conventional loan if you really want that specific house. So that's another reason why we want to kind of get out in front of the pre-approval part. And with what both of you were saying, chipped paint, stuff like that on a single family house, typically most of the time that's not going to be a red flag or stop you unless the list agent just says, no, we're not accepting FHA offers. which can happen. So as you guys were saying, it is very important to see what program, not just the value of the house that you can get pre-approved for, but what program are you also pre-approved for? Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, we're almost halfway there. We're on step 3. Here we go.
You want to buy a house? Well, now that you've got your real estate team together and your pre-approval in place, it's time for the fun stuff. Let's start the house hunting. Probably the best way to go ahead and start the house hunting search itself is to go ahead and get an auto search set up with your agent. This is a really easy process where you identify what characteristics you're looking for in a house. Number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, locations, price point, and even house type like townhome, condo, or single family house. Now you can do this browsing online yourself on sites like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, and other sites, but they don't have up-to-date and accurate information on listing statuses. One of the most common issues is they will mark a property listed as active. However, it will already be under contract. If you get a search set up with your agent, you can prohibit those kind of issues from occurring. Window searching is also a really good way to get an idea for what things you're actually interested in a home. Getting a great feel for what you're looking for really helps when you start to go out and look at these houses in person. What will step 4 be? Well, check back tomorrow and we will find out. Bye.
Okay, so the auto search creation tool is super helpful and really helps to kind of get you exposed to a lot of options out there, start to understand the market that you're looking in. You'll start to make tweaks and changes as far as what your criteria is and what you're looking at. How that process goes is typically as easy as setting up a 5-10 minute phone call. It's nothing too crazy. Jump on the phone with the buyers. At that point, you've established and have your pre-approval, so you know kind of what amount you're financially qualified for as well as maybe what amount you want to stick to. We can go ahead and put in certain things such as bedroom, bathroom, garage stalls, location specific searches, and then you can see how many properties are there. I'd say from a quantity perspective, if you have 1,000 properties in your search, that's way too much. If you have 3, that's not great. So the cool thing about doing these live, like on the phone creations, is we can just toggle it. So we can say, well, we'd like 3 bathrooms, but if we do 2, it goes from 20 properties up to 70 properties. And have a good base of properties to start with. I've mentioned it in that video, the step video, but one thing that's really important to understand. So when you're really far out, you haven't done pre-approval, you haven't done anything yet, it can be tempting and fun just to go on Zillow or Realtor.com and look and see these houses that are out there because it's super easy. You just pick up your phone, you beep, 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 and you're good to go, right? However, when you get to the point of actually being serious and wanting to look for yourself, don't do that. And the reason for that is those third-party sites, they syndicate and pull from Northstar MLS and other main input hubs. And there are different statuses, right? You have your main statuses. So you have active, pending, closed, expired, canceled. But then you also have sub-statuses. So like active, contingent upon inspection, active with no contingencies, active, contingent upon the CIC recession, the HOA docs. And what that basically means is if it has a contingency, active contingent, it means it already has an accepted offer under place and they're just waiting for different obstacles to get through the process before it gets to the closed state. So on Zillow, they don't know how to pull these secondary sub statuses yet. So you'll see a property like, oh, this property is awesome. Why isn't it on our search? Or you'll get really excited thinking it's active. It's already under contract. So big thing is, get a good MLS search set up with your agent so that you can filter out all the stuff that's already gone and focus on what is actually out there. Dave, what did you want to say?
Thanks, Mike. One other thing I want to add to here is when it comes to the actual search criteria, it doesn't have to just be number of rooms, number of bathrooms, fireplace, island in the kitchen. You can also kind of get a little bit more in the weeds and you can set up cool kind of map searches. So if you want to be 30 minutes away from your place of work, you can do that. You can just type in the address and kind of set your actual map limiter, like you'd see here, to a specific radius around a specific area that you drive to a lot. So whether it be a child's school or a place of work or a place that you just visit super frequently that you want to be within a certain drive time radius of, you can do that in here, which is a super nice feature when you have a place that you drive to so often. Another thing that's really nice about kind of getting ahead of the ball, but before you actually start doing the in-person searches, with setting up this search, kind of like Kyle talked about, it's never too early to set up or to get pre-approved. It's really never too early to set up these searches, so you can start kind of seeing what's out there and what's in your price range, and kind of start digitally viewing these properties online, so that way you can kind of get that window shopping done ahead of it. So when you actually start visiting the properties down the line, you're kind of a little bit more used to seeing properties.
Yeah, basically it helps to give you some conviction that the properties you're seeing, like when you've been looking for several months, let's say, and the house really stands out. If it's the first time you're going to see a house, how are you able to identify that that stands out from the pack? But when you've been looking for a while, it helps to give you a little more clarity, conviction around like, yep, this is something that's worth taking action on, or no, this is just a dime a dozen, it's no big deal. So it does help to give you a little more conviction in what you're seeing. Kyle wanted to mention one thing too here about the importance of making sure you get pre-approved before you set up these auto searches.
Yeah, definitely. So main thing with getting your pre-approval set is you want to know what you're comfortable with. You don't want to go and take a look at houses and then you come to realize, you talk to me, you're wondering, what the monthly is going to be, how much you need to bring to closing. And then you see these houses, you fall in love with one, and you come back to me to get more particulars on your finances. And then you realize, uh-oh, the monthly is way higher than I thought, or my cash to close is way higher than I thought. I'm not comfortable with that. Then it leads to kind of a problem, because once you see that house that you absolutely love, are you going to be able to go from this $450,000 house to what you're more comfortable with at $400 or $350? It probably is going to be a pretty decent swing. So then it's really hard to come back from this house that you absolutely love, it's your dream house, to maybe a house that you like, but you don't absolutely love. So that is why it's so important to kind of get the ball rolling with the pre-approval first, and then doing the searches and going to see the houses a little bit after.
Yeah, I always tell people start low and work your way up, because it's a mental head game thing to have to see nice houses and then bring it backwards. So even if you've got the room to go up, like when you're setting up that auto search on the phone, not to say intentionally spend less than you have to or that you want to, but start low, work your way up, because it's fun to go up in price as long as you can. It is not to do the inverse. So, okay, now let's hit step 4. Here we go.
On the back half of the journey to buy a house. What is step 4? Well, this is the fun part. This is where we get to go out and start looking at the houses in person. Now, a step like looking at houses in person might sound pretty straightforward, and for most part it is, but I got a couple of helpful tips that should make it a better experience for you. My first tip is maximize your time when you're out. Rather than just go look at one house, if there's a couple other properties that might be of interest in the location, go take a look at those too. One thing you'll quickly learn is that photos are very deceiving. Sometimes places look better than you thought. Sometimes they look much worse. Now, I would say there's a sweet spot as far as how many houses you should look at a time. I think your sweet spot is somewhere between 2 to 4 houses. Once you start to look at too many, they all start to mush together and it can be really hard to tell which house you liked and which ones you don't. Another suggestion is go during daylight. Now, in the spring and summer, this is pretty easy because you got daylight that spans till 9 p.m., no problem. But in the winter, when it gets dark around 4 or 5, it makes it really hard to tell if you like the property and the surrounding area. All right, well, that's a wrap for step 4. Check back tomorrow for the final step of the home buying process.
You know, with how long this video is becoming, maybe you are watching this on a daily basis and checking back tomorrow for each step. So that could be fair, assuming you're still watching in continuation here. One of the things I just wanted to say in leading up, and then we'll toss this over to Dave, but when you're getting showing set up, this is back to like assemble the team, making sure that the people that you're working with are compatible with the time that you're able to go and do stuff. So it kind of tends to be these 3 different brackets of when you go see properties. There's weekdays during the day, there's weekdays during the evening, and then there's weekends, right? And depending on your work schedule or your partner's work schedule, there might be certain times that work better than not. If I had to rank these as far as best times to go, weekdays during the day would probably be my number 1. The reason for that is it's always going to be light and you can get in early. So like if when you see properties on auto searches, usually they go out in the morning, you see something at 9 a.m. You're like, oh, sweet. This house looks awesome. Let's go out and see it. Maybe you get a showing for noon or 1. Obviously, it depends on seller availability and what they can do for showings. But if you can get it in right away, not only can you see the home quick so that you can take action on it quick, but when you go weekdays during the day, you're less likely to have overlapping showings and other people there, which is nice to be able to go through a house and see it with you and your agent, as opposed to a herd of people that are in there. Then you have weekends. Weekends are good, viable times too. The downside with weekends is you get a lot of additional showings that are also going on at the same time. You can also run into open houses. Open houses are fine and dandy for just tire kicking and going around and seeing places, but when you're actually going out to see a house with your agent, you don't want to go in there and have another agent who's trying to upsell you or, tell you how nice these windows are. Like all those features and facts should be in the MLS thing. It's nice to go into a place and not have to deal with the overlapping or the agents who are there. Weekend or weekdays during the evening would probably be the third tier. It can be advantageous to get out there and see it on an evening prior to the weekend, and maybe with your work schedule, that's what fits best. But if we're filming this here in the fall this time, and as it gets dark earlier, going and seeing properties while it's dark out is kind of a disadvantage because you can't really see the land. You can't see how well sunlight comes in and fills the place. Stuff just tends to look better during the day. So going and honestly, sometimes driving around, you're trying to squint to see what the house numbers are, because if there's not a for sale sign out in front of the house, it can be hard to sometimes tell which house you're going to. So yeah, those are kind of the three different tier brackets, and weekdays during the day tends to be my favorite to go see it. Dave, what do you guys say about all this stuff?
Yeah, I think this is kind of where having a good agent along for the ride is important. So there are going to be a lot of the, I guess, tangible or intangible, those things that you're looking for when you're kind of setting up your search. But when you actually get into a property and view it face to face or face to house, there are a few things that actually stand out as more important factors. And being a agent out there with your buyers, assessing the property and assessing their reaction to the property, it's nice to be able to take those in and keep those in mind, so that way when I'm looking at other properties that are showing up in your searches, I can bring those to the forefront and kind of bring those to the attention if for whatever reason you stop looking at your daily email or your weekly email, so that way no good properties are kind of getting missed up on.
No, that's a great point, Dave. When you go and see these houses in person, that's a great opportunity to kind of reassess as far as what you're looking for in a house and seeing really what you think is important and potentially not important. So you can adjust your search as you see fit once you see the houses. So I think that's very important.
Well said, Kyle. All right, people, we've made it. Step 5. Let's hit it.
We finally made it to the last step of the house hunting journey. What is that? It is offer writing. Once you found a house that you love and you want to put an offer in on, you're going to need to work with your agent to put something together. Most times offers are done electronically and sent out for e-signatures. What are some of the things you need to consider when writing an offer? Well, you want to do simple things like sales price and close date. You want to figure out if you're asking for an inspection and how long of a period that'll be. There's also other considerations to make, like what your earnest money is going to be and if you're asking for seller paid closing costs. Pro tip, market conditions can make a big difference on what kind of an offer you should write for a house. There's a difference between putting an offer in on a brand new house to the market versus a house that's been on the market for 2 months. Consult with your agent and get more information to brainstorm the best offer to put in for a subject property. Once both parties have agreed to term and signed the contract, you are officially under contract for that property. There's still some final obstacles to get past once you get an executed offer together. However, you should feel very accomplished by getting this far in the process. Thanks so much for watching and hope it was helpful. Bye.
Look, didn't say check back tomorrow. We've made it to the end. Step 5. Okay, so when it gets to the point, you've seen a house, you're really interested, and you're like, okay, I want to put an offer in. Typically, this is kind of what happens is there's several calls that go on around the same time. The agent, I like to reach out to the listing agent and kind of see what fact finding I can get about the property, a lay of the land, if you will. So do they have any offers that are in? What's the interest level been like? Are there anything specific that the sellers are looking for out of the ordinary? Like what's their ideal close date? Are there certain things that they want left behind at the house? Or, maybe earnest money is really important to them. Probably not, but you never know. That's why you make the call. In addition to that too, people like to work with people they want to work with. So listing agents, I've seen it, like they'll sometimes choose an offer if two are close with whatever agent they think will work best with them in the process. So being able to call, create a rapport, establish that connection with the agent, show them you're a real person, willing to make calls on their behalf or on your client's behalf is a good step to kind of get some of that information. Meanwhile, buyers are encouraged to reach out to their lender, this guy down here, so they can kind of rerun the numbers, see where things are at, and get a peace of mind about what offer they're comfortable writing, as well as getting a new custom pre-approval for it.
Yeah, so with that, I think it's very important to get a different pre-approval letter every time that you're offering on a house, because you don't want to show that list agent that, hey, you're approved for 600K, but the house is at 400. With that, I have seen it where list agents will try to get a couple $5,000 from you extra than they otherwise would. And they'll kind of use that against you. So you don't want that to happen. And also, as Michael was saying, it's a good time to see exactly what your monthly would be. And one thing to note is if you're wondering in your head, okay, should we offer 410 compared to 405? Like what is the difference in that? One thing to note, it's about $7 a month at the most per $1,000 that you go up as far as what your monthly payment will differ. So if you're going up $1,000 higher, that's $7 a month at most higher on your payment. So most people don't think that's that big of a discrepancy or a difference. So the question that you have when you're trying to figure out what offer that you're going to put in, just kind of ask yourself, is $35 if you go $5,000 higher, is that going to be something where we're comfortable with, or are we going to be not very happy with ourselves if we don't go higher and we lose this house that we love? Because that's what happens in most times. If you don't come with an aggressive offer, you might not get the house. And many times buyers kind of regret that. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. And with that, when you're putting in an offer and seeing what the payments are and all that sort of stuff, that's a good opportunity for me to call your list agent or call the list agent on this property. So not Michael, but the other agent, and kind of just vouch for you and just say, hey, we have everything on your file. Everything looks really good. They're excited about the house. And basically they're full throttle ahead, and they're great buyers, and they get everything back to us very, very quickly, and they're excited. So it's just a good opportunity for me to reach out to the other side and form that relationship just a little bit, because as Michael said, the relationships that we build on our end can actually be the difference between accepting your offer and accepting somebody else's if they're pretty close or comparable.
Yep. Totally agree.
I'd like to add on to that, because as Kyle's mentioned, as Mike's mentioned, it's at some points it's the small little things that push it over the edge and get your offer actually accepted. So one thing that as the actual buyer can do is to put together I guess they're sometimes referred to as love letters, kind of a letter to the seller, kind of talking about your situation, how excited you are for the property, and all those little things that kind of, even if you have a matching offer or counter or another offer that's the same price, that little thing that kind of puts it over the edge.
Yeah, I think the final takeaway is, sometimes you'll run into situations where there's multiple offers going on in houses, and it's a very, writing an offer is very situational. It's situational upon what kind of offers are in. I mean, that's the whole reason that you call the agent in the first place to figure it out. How long has it been on the market? What's the overall real estate market conditions like? So if you get into situations where it's multiple offers and it's basically a blind bid, you put in your best bid and you see what happens. I yield and go back to the advice of Papa Getty, right? And it is figure out what your magic sweet spot number is. Kyle talked about this too, of that $5,000 sounds like a lot, but when you look at $35 or what soon will be a Netflix subscription a month as prices keep going up, it'll be funny. Someone will watch this and be like, oh my gosh, Netflix is $50 a month now. But at the time it was filmed, it was not. So finding that sweet spot number where you're kind of at peace with the outcome either way is really good. So, if you put in your 410, your 415, whatever it is, you're like, yep, okay, this is my number. And you don't get it, you're not like, shoot, I knew I should have got an extra 3 more, because then you're going to have that, once you buy the house, you're not going to remember that you spent $3,000 more or $5,000. It'll be roughly the same thing. So if you love the house, go get it. With that being said, too, if you put in a good, strong offer, and this is for multiple offer situations, and you don't get it, then you have that peace of mind of knowing hey, I went in with a good, strong offer. If someone else is willing to pay that much more, then it wasn't meant to be. And kind of go from there. But yeah, figuring out, trust your gut and figure out what number you're comfortable with is really important to, keeping the mental peace of mind with this whole process too. Well, thank you everybody for watching this great real estate summit that we put together for you. We'll hope to do more things like this down the road, but hopefully it was educational and helpful. And if any of you are interested in looking at buying a house, feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we'd love to help you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yep. Thank you.